Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. This is your host, ID Jester. We are looking at the top 18 most powerful heroes in Marvel Heroes 2015 edition, according to the time frame of patch 1.85. This is, of course, my own personal opinions. Yours may vary, and of course, they will vary based upon your thought and feelings. But of course, this doesn't mean that the heroes that are listed can't be more powerful. This is just a comparison between all the heroes. Now let's look at number 13. So last episode we looked at number 14, Iron Man, the 13th most powerful hero in the game. Oh, who will it be? Number 13. Number 13 is Scarlet Witch. 13th most powerful hero in the game, which is quite a little bit of a surprise, I would guess, for a lot of people, because I don't think a lot of people consider her maybe the 13th most powerful hero in the game. So I guess I got to try to convince you why she is one of the most powerful heroes in the game. In fact, the 13th most powerful hero in the game. Well, the first thing is she has several abilities to destroy non-boss enemies instantaneously. Not only does she have this in her powers, but I think she also has an item that does that as well. So her signature power obviously does a huge amount of damage. Nice little buff. It kind of energizes a lot of your other powers you're going to be using. I guess the best way to kind of convince you guys that Scarlet Witch is one of the best heroes in the game is she probably, in my opinion, has the most powerful power individually or combine it with other powers in the game, in that the Chaos Warp, where she basically can go up above everyone else in the battlefield, has a huge, massive area and constantly does huge amounts of damage to enemies. So the main trigger for Scarlet Witch is you put out your other area effects, such as Ossification. You also put out your Chaos Rift. You throw in your Ravenous Bindings. These are all damage over times. This lasts for 10 seconds. This lasts for 11 seconds. So you throw those out, and then you basically energize your Chaos Warp, where you're doing massive amounts of damage. You have these other effects scattered all over the board. You instantaneously, every once in a while, get to just destroy non-boss enemies, which is a huge ability. I mean, there's so many times you get swarmed by boss enemies, and you're so worried about the boss doing damage to you that you forget about their little minions that can, add up. All their damage adds up. Not only that, but when you actually have the Chaos Warp going, you're taking 35% less damage. So you can basically, even though I only have 20,000 hit points here for Scarlet Witch, if I am using my Chaos Warp, I can take a Juggernaut charge or a Rhino charge and not die from that instantaneously. So her main claim to fame is basically throwing out all of her area powers, and then zapping in her Chaos Warp, and occasionally throwing out her Unmake Reality, which has a cooldown of 40 seconds, which is fine because we're not going to be using that every 40 seconds. We'll be using that, not every 20 seconds or 25 seconds like a lot of the other heroes need their signature a lot of the time. Scarlet Witch doesn't need that often. We haven't even really talked about the Dark Hex, which is going to do a nice extra bit of chunk of damage, or the Reality Implosion. Again, does a nice extra bit of damage and makes him vulnerable. So I think all in all, she's kind of has that area power damage kind of overview. See ya. Where are you going?
Try to take a step back.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Kind of has this, throw out the area power damage and then use her chaos warp, which just seems to be so good. Enemies are slowed inside, take a huge amount of damage. I regenerate nice bit of health. I take less damage. Hardly takes any kind of spirit whatsoever. You can see 14.3 per second, and I have 756. So I can spend literally like 3 minutes or maybe even more in my Chaos Warp, throw down a couple of these area effects, and go to my Chaos Warp, and it makes her almost unstoppable. She doesn't take a lot of damage. She regenerates a huge amount of health. And then occasionally you throw out this Unmake Reality every once in a while. As far as her stat line goes, we have 43, 42, 45, 41, 42, 42, and 49. I think that's one of the highest ones I actually have in all the heroes. And that's a huge passive ability, the Chaos Magic. Gives her a nice critical hit rating, a brutal strike rating, and of course energizes a whole bunch of her powers. So huge amount of 49 on that one, and a 41 on her Chaos Hex, which is her default attack. So power or rank wise on her powers, she's probably just slightly above maybe where some of the others are. I mean, she's got the 45, she's got the 49. And then the other ones tend to be about the same range as a lot of the others. The 42, the 43, the 44 range, somewhere in there. If you look at her stat line wise, she's pretty good there. A little bit low on the damage reduction. I think that's low, obviously, because she's getting this huge boost when she's in her Chaos Warp and doing the healing and taking less damage. So I think that's why her damage reduction is a little low. And her damage number is going to be a little low because she's basically going to be layering her damage with all of her area powers. So throw out her area effect, throw out an area effect, and then throw in your Chaos Warp. I think, she just does a ton of damage. It's, it's not even like it does it over time because it happens all at the same time when you layer all these bits of damage on top of one another, and her passive effects really help. As far as our stat line goes, we are mental, so we're at about 45%. Okay, a little bit low. Obviously, we could work on trying to get that up a little bit. Brutal strike ratings right where it needs to be at 51.8%. Item-wise, it gives her some nice stat lines of where we need to be. Obviously, we just looked at our numbers, so that's good. I think her items could be just slightly updated a little bit. I think that would help, and I think her powers, maybe some of the newer mechanics, might even help get her, maybe even a little bit higher. But right now, I consider her the 13th most powerful hero in the game. As we haven't even talked about her very good ultimate power. It has a huge buff there at the end, which gives you damage over time. Powers have no spirit cost, and we've been talking about her damage over time this whole video. So we have this buff for 20 seconds where they have no spirit cost whatsoever, so we can just layer them out, all of them out instantaneously, just spam them all over the place. And we're going to be doing a huge amount of damage during that 20 seconds where, well, we don't really have much of a spirit issue with her either. But gives her a nice, huge chunk of damage twice per second. And then it explodes for, 1,000,000 to 1,000,000.7 damage. So it does a nice chunk for damage for 2.5 seconds, and then explodes for a huge amount of damage. And during this, we're of course invulnerable. So very nice ultimate power. Really makes her, if you're trying to decide between, number 13, number 14, number 15, number 16, you got to take all the little things into consideration. And it's the little things like that make her fall down the list to number 13th as the 13th most powerful hero in the game. I just think, I have no doubts, the Scarlet Witch can basically go into any area in the game and kind of dominate it. She's, kind of doesn't have anything support-wise to support other heroes. She kind of does her own thing, which is fine. Not all the heroes are support heroes. This is kind of an area control freak, and it's kind of the best way to describe, because she is really, really powerful with the area effects. And of course, they're just getting energized by her ultimate power, and of course, by her signature power, which just makes them even better. So the 13th most powerful hero in the game, and probably why she doesn't go even lower than that, is because of her awful, awful outfit that I had to replace with this one. Her default costume is just god-awful. But this one here is very nice. I like this one. So 13th most powerful hero in the game, Scarlet Witch. So next time we'll look at 12th most powerful hero. We'll see you guys then.